Well, a few minutes late, but glad you're along. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Steakhouse on a Wednesday. Hope you're doing well. I actually dropped my earbud there. Put that back in. Got it when your equipment kind of falls out of your ear and that kind of thing. Glad you're along. Hope you're doing well. Hope things are well. You know the drill. You're hearing me. It means a thumbs up. Let's just check in and make sure we are being heard. A few minutes late, as I mentioned, but we got a loaded show. I mean, this may be this is the last regular season show of the year. So if that's the case, we got one loaded for you. And let's just kind of pull up here and make sure that we are on the air. And I think that we are. Hey, time to roll the open, right? Let's roll that open. And I think we're going to be okay today. I just have a feeling that today we're going to be okay. Let's roll it open in 3, 2, 1. Here we go. Glad you guys are along on the Steakhouse. Here we go. Glad you guys are along on. We got through it. How about that? The Open did not disappoint us there. How about that? That was good. That's a good sign when we finally got the kinks out there. Glad you guys are along the Steakhouse. Welcome. My name's Dan Vaughn, voice of the Kansas City T-Bones, and we've got a big one for you. We got not one but two guests coming to you here. We're now past we're in the lunch hour now, so it's kind of fitting. Sit back, relax. Got the tablecloths out. You got your favorite beverage out for you. Maybe it's a coffee, a tea, knives and forks ready to go. On the menu board today, which is, if you see our post on Facebook, you see I put the today's special up. It's kind of like walking into your favorite place. And maybe not, I guess your favorite steakhouse has a special, right? They always do, right? Well, our chalkboard special today, we've got coming up in the second half hour, Dylan Tice, Milwaukee Milkman, or is he? We'll answer that question, but we'll talk to Dylan Tice about the Milwaukee Milkmen and their American Association Championship, which they clinched last week. And then on the opening segment, we're going to have Kevin Lucco, the one and only Kevin, along with he won't be joined with Rob, but Rob Prenier and him both with This Week in the American Association. Kevin probably saw, I think it's safe to say, outside of maybe umpires, obviously the broadcasters, the players, but outside of umpires, players, broadcasters, he saw as much of the American Association this year and was at the finals last week. So he'll stop by and have a chat about that and about the league in general. I think he's very dialed into what's going on in the league. Also, as always, your questions and comments, we always got that for you. But we're going to start off Wednesday's Wisdom today. And I didn't even load the system here, which I was so excited because the Open went so swimmingly today that I didn't even put that in there. But let's do that. Let's go ahead and I thought, since we're heading into the off season, we're heading into what I've like to call, and you guys have heard me say this several times, I've talked about the hot stove. What is the hot stove? I often and I've realized that maybe I know most of my North American audience will know what the hot stove is, I think. And then I started thinking, I use that term so much, even in Australia, even in North America, maybe folks don't really know what the hot stove is. And I thought today's Wednesday's Wisdom, we would kind of give you guys, as we move into the Hot Stove League, which the Hot Stove League's already busy, what is the origin of the term hot stove? Because if you're a baseball fan, maybe a hockey fan, you've heard the term hot stove mentioned now and then, and always made me wonder, what was the origin of that? I didn't even know. So, by the way, your questions and comments throughout the broadcast as well. Glad you guys are along. In the early days of baseball, as we see a mom out there, always kind of my mom out there for sure. Hot stove refer to the actual was not the actual baseball season, and still not. Although the hot stove could be carried over into, well, it kind of heats up near the trade time. Sometimes the first few weeks of the season. I guess the hot stove could kind of hot stove any time when you make a trade, but in general, the hot stove is the all-encompassing term for the baseball season in the wintertime, when the off season, basically what it is. And I put a couple pictures up here. Here's one. Here's a cartoon. This one goes back, I believe this one here dates to, I believe around the early, this is around 1913, I believe. But you can see right there, this is a cartoon that was made. There's a baseball fan. He's sitting there next. Let me pull the graphic down so you can see it. You see the baseball fan. He's the guy on the left. That's BBFAN. The guy with his hands out. He's on the left of your screen, hat on, hands out, kind of warming his hands. And the hot stove says, "Oh, that ought to produce some hot air." And you've got the two gentlemen walking in, dressed in suits of the time. The derbies and that look from the turn of the last century. One says American League meetings. He's got a wrapped up. Well, it's actually not wrapped up. It's just pieces of wood. It says American League meetings. The other one says trade talk and managerial changes. And that's what's on that. I don't know if you guys can see that on the screen, but there's an idea of what that is. And that's cartoon number one. The other photo I want to show you guys, this is one from around the same time. And this was a photo, obviously a photo op that was staged as well. Let me see if I can put this up on the screen for you guys as well. You can see that. You can see these are Red Sox players sitting around. One of them's got a lumber in his hand. He's going to put some lumber into the stove there. You got some players sitting around. What looks like maybe a baseball executive in his overall, or not his overall. He's got his suspenders on, and the players are sitting around, staying warm around the hot stove. So a couple of visuals there to give you. But according to the Dickinson Baseball Encyclopedia, one of my properties downstairs, the first occurrence of the hot stove was actually in 1908 is when this happened. First use in 1908 that the New York Giants will win the hot stove. The fans getting something to talk about when the hot stove league opens this season. And apparently the Giants have maybe not done so well the previous year, but the Sporting Life in September 19th of 1908 says the situation was better for the fans because it looked like the Giants could win the hot stove off season. So that's the first use of the hot stove. And what it references is really back in the day. Let's go back before radio. When newspaper was your best way to get your information, you would gather around either the town crier, obviously was the original hot stove, but oftentimes folks in small towns, even rural communities, even big cities, would go to the local watering hole, the local Five and Dime, the local supply store, whatever it is, and there'll be a stove in the middle, and they'd all sit around the hot stove, have a cup of coffee, put some wood on the fire, and talk about the events, maybe talk about politics and talk about whatever was going on in society. That's thus the term hot stove. It's what people would do. They would sit around in the wintertime and discuss, hopefully we have a good spring, we'll have a good crop, or hopefully the election goes our way, or whatever the case may be. That's the original visual, is that folks in the wintertime, especially in northern climes, would sit around the hot stove, warm themselves with talks of better days or good days, or maybe it was in this case, when we're talking about baseball, talking about better days ahead when the spring and summer come. So that's the whole term of hot stove. And I did not realize. I just kind of thought my thought was it threw wood in the fire. You throw wood on the hot stove fire. Let me give you another shot of that one again too here. I just kind of thought you were throwing wood on the stove. You kind of, baseball was the wood, and it kind of burned and got people all excited. Yes and no. The wood was to keep the engine burning, to keep you guys excited about the game, keep you guys in tune with your ball club, and you threw that hot stove wood on there, player trades, manager signings, comings and goings of the rosters around the league. Who looks better this time of year than others? And that's where it all came from. But that goes back to the turn of the last previous 2 centuries when folks in communities all across the country would sit around, warm their hands by the winter fire, chat about the day, and also, oh, by the way, the hot stove baseball league, which also in hockey is actually, there's actually a television and radio program in hockey that's for years has also been called the hot stove. So it goes back. A couple of things too. There were, you see the cartoon there. That was actually that one came out of the Spokane Washington Press back in 1909 is when that one was. But it was interesting to see just some of the notes I dug up on this whole thing that the hot stove really had more of a meaning than I realized. I mean, I realized it was a symbol, but there's certain things in baseball you kind of just, well, I kind of know that. I know that term means hot stove in baseball, but in reality, it is the hot stove. And I want to close with this here. And actually, you know what? I'm going to table this. You know what? I'll read it now. Why not, right? I'll read it now because I got something else for you guys to close with. Okay, here is this poem that was published in 1910 in the Washington, D.C. Sunday Star, and it's called the Hot Stove League. And it closes with these lines, and I'll read these lines to you. I've read these poems before to you guys, but here are the lines here. Let me read this to you. Let me kind of pull this up so you guys can get a better look at my face here. What if the plays are built of smoke and laughed to scorn by men? They have to but light their pipe to play them or again. There are no dubs in the Hot Stove League. Every guy is a star, by Jove. I'm not sure who Jove is. For every galoot slams the ball and snoot around the old hot stove, I'll let them play their games and dreams with never a fault or bull. With one hand grabs of double plays and home runs with bases full. But what a corking team we'd have if we signed every cove. And they'd all play ball all like they do in the fall around the old hot stove. Thus, the hot stove was something you always win. So back in the 1900s, the fans were the same way they are now. You always look great on paper in November, December, and on to January, February, March. Maybe not so good in July and August, but the hot stove, you're always a winner as the hope springs eternal the spring. But a couple of cool things there. And just, again, a hot stove could be politics, weather, but in general, it talks about the hot stove of baseball. But that's where the first mentions and also the origins of the hot stove. That's today's Wednesday's Wisdom here on the show. Glad you're along on the steakhouse. Glad you're here. Had such a stove in my early years. Yes, and that's the thing. That stove you're seeing there, that stove you see, that's what everybody had. I mean, back in the day, that's what folks had to keep themselves warm. That's what warmed your whole house. And my mother grew up on her first home was literally when I say this, picture a old painting of a one-room wooden cabin. That's basically what it was. Where she grew up in West Texas back in the turn, not the turn, had been the middle, born in 1940, so it had been, but still, even back then, even folks in the rural parts of the country didn't have AC and central heat and air. They had the hot stove to keep them warm. So all good. Thanks, Bob, for that contribution. Glad you guys are along. Hope you enjoy Wednesday's Wisdom. Let's see here. We're done. The association season is done. And off the top, first off, congratulations to the entire American Association. I said it 2 weeks ago in our last show. The little engine that could, whatever you want to call it, I couldn't be prouder. And believe me, people notice around the world just what the American Association did. Yes, Major League Baseball's kind of settled down a bit, but they've had more issues, left and right with COVID. The American Association pulled it out with only really one COVID out. We're going to hear from Dylan Tice in the second half hour. He's going to really tell us a bit more about some of those precautions. Well, really just how it went for them. This was a challenging season for a lot of folks, but I couldn't be happier for the entire American Association of family. And not just Milwaukee winning it all and Sioux Falls being in the postseason, but every ownership group, every front office, every person involved with this thing, including both Josh Richab and Josh Buchholz. Big tip of the cap for those guys. I mean, everybody along the way, big things doing. I mean, this is one of those things you're going to look back as a player, broadcaster, fan, whatever, and say, I remember that. And a lot of folks really battled this summer. I mean, for guys like me who really sat at home and battled from a distance, It wasn't probably as hard of a grind, although maybe it was an emotional grind for folks like me and fans like you who didn't get our T-bones fixed this year. But for guys, I think of Steve Schuster, who was away from home the entire summer, did not cross the back to Winnipeg to go back to his own bed, was basically packed all summer. But look at guys like Kevin Lucco will join us in a moment, who was there the entire way to really see this thing through. And just overall, just a lot of folks along the way. I mean, I can think of all the broadcasters, media folks, content producers. It was a labor at times this summer, but they got through it, and I'm very, very happy and very proud of the American Association. Okay, as promised, let's get this graphic off the board here too. Here's a little producing on the fly. Steakhouse continues on your Wednesday, our final regular season show until we go to off-season mode. And granted, this show usually doesn't air during the season because usually it's our T-Bones pregame live, T-Bones postgame live. And we also air our Cup of Sizzle during the daytime, our award-winning, the groundbreaking Cup of Sizzle that started it all so many years ago. Well, a couple of years ago, actually. But that's what we usually do. And then we usually open the steakhouse in the off-season. We kept this thing going all season. So anyway, quickly also, Donna says, with the small amount of ejections this season, including the first one for a coach not wearing a mask on the mound, does that reflect how good? I think yes. I think yes. It's very interesting. I probably watched more streaming video of baseball than I've ever watched. And that includes Australia. When I'm working in a winter ball in Australia, oftentimes I spend a half season home and go a second half season over. So I watch a lot of Perth games, especially. I was watching at least some portion of a game every night in some long stretches. And I don't recall but the one incident where someone was ejected like that. And yeah, I think that speaks. And I thought too, the umpires had a very big task at hand, because not only they umpire the game and try to keep this thing between the navigational buoys, so to speak, and keep players in line, calling balls and strikes, making sure the rules are applied properly. That's a tough gig. I mean, umpiring and a gig for everybody. But to pull that off with also the protocols, all those things involved, I thought they did a great job. I didn't see, but maybe a couple of times this year there was some border. But you can say that in any ball game, you're going to say that was a close call. These guys they're human. They're going to make mistakes. But I think overall, I would say, yeah, it's an A. A definite A to an A+ for the umpire crews this year. I didn't hear a lot of talk amongst broadcasters. I didn't hear much talk about fans, and I think that's a big thumbs up to the entire association. All right, appreciate that very much, Don, as well. I know you guys are busy with this whole thing as well. Okay, I'm going to see Jeff Miller time out there as well. As mentioned, Kevin Lucco from This Week in the American Association, he saw as much baseball as anybody that wasn't a player, umpire, or maybe a front office, because he was I think he made every stop. I think he made every stop in the association this year, and he multiple stops in Sioux Falls. So he definitely saw that, and also his hometown team there in St. Paul. But Kevin, good enough to kind of join us on the Steakhouse on a Wednesday as we roll right along. Glad you guys are along. Take it away, Kevin Lucco, our first featured guest. Got some new bells and whistles. Hope you guys enjoy it right here on the Steakhouse on a Wednesday on Facebook Live and YouTube Live.
Be strong.
Well, as promised here on the Steakhouse, as we wrap up the American Association season, and what has been a crazy season, a guy who's seen a lot of it and been on the road from This Week in the American Association, Kevin Lucco. And Kevin, first off, take a deep breath. Season's over. Are you going to be able to decompress now? Because you've been a busy man.
I don't know what to do with myself. For the last 2 months, I was in a routine. If I wasn't at a ballpark, I was watching games on American Association Baseball TV. I don't know what to do with myself right now. I'm going to drive my wife nuts again.
Yeah, my wife wanted to kick me out back in May, so I got you because we didn't play. Obviously, we didn't play. Let's jump into the headline. Milwaukee wins the shortened season. I don't think it was a huge surprise. I think a lot of folks thought the teams were pretty evenly matched, but I think in this league of super teams, they were all 6 super teams, some really good ball clubs out there. I don't think this is a real big shocker. Milwaukee pretty much from August 1 was the best club in the league, depth-wise, bullpen-wise, matchup-wise, offense. I mean, they don't do a lot of things. They do a lot of things good. They may not stand out in one area, except for starting pitching in their bullpen. No shocker here, was there?
No, I don't think so. To me, for Milwaukee to win the series, it was a matter of the pitchers doing what they had been doing all season, and to have a few of the guys that were having some subpar seasons at the plate to get the job done and get them enough run support. And as we saw, that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, they took the series 3-1. I was glad to see Sioux Falls get a win, and it would have been nice. I think it would have been nice for all the fans involved to go as long as it could, because the league did go, we're going to go 7 games if they could. But I just think that over the course of the 7 games, 5 games, whatever doesn't make a difference. Milwaukee was the better club, but Sioux Falls has got nothing to hang their hat about. I mean, their heads about.
Be strong.
Well, as promised here on the Steakhouse, as we wrap up the American Association season, and what has been a crazy season, a guy who's seen a lot of it and been on the road from this week in the American Association, Kevin Luco. And Kevin, first off, take a deep breath. Season's over. Are you going to be able to decompress now? Because you've been a busy man.
I don't know what to do with myself. For the last 2 months, I was in a routine. If I wasn't at a ballpark, I was watching games on American Association Baseball TV. I don't know what to do with myself right now. I'm going to drive my wife nuts again.
Yeah, my wife wanted to kick me out back in May, so I got you because we didn't play. Obviously, we didn't play. Let's jump into the headline. Milwaukee wins the shortened season. I don't think it was a huge surprise. I think a lot of folks thought the teams were pretty evenly matched, but I think in this league of super teams, they were all 6 super teams, some really good ball clubs out there. I don't think this is a real big shocker. Milwaukee pretty much from August 1 was the best club in the league, depth-wise, bullpen-wise, matchup-wise, offense. I mean, they don't do a lot of things. They do a lot of things good. They may not stand out in one area, except for starting pitching in their bullpen. No shocker here, was there?
No, I don't think so. To me, for Milwaukee to win the series, it was a matter of the pitchers doing what they had been doing all season, and to have a few of the guys that were having some subpar seasons at the plate to get the job done and get them enough run support. And as we saw, that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, they took the series 3-1. I was glad to see Sioux Falls get a win, and it would have been nice. I think it would have been nice for all the fans involved to go as long as it could, because the league did go, we're going to go 7 games if they could. But I just think that over the course of the 7 games, 5 games, whatever doesn't make a difference. Milwaukee was the better club, but Sioux Falls has got nothing to hang their hat about. I mean, their heads about. That was a pretty good ball club in their dugout too. They're just a little short. And I think you mentioned it to me. We were kind of texting back and forth. Certain situations, maybe it was where their offense stood out. Their matchups in the bullpen maybe came a little deficient late in the series.
Right, and yeah, with Sioux Falls, the middle of the order produced just fine, but top of the order, Logan Lannon had been a table setter all season, and he maybe had 2, possibly 3 hits the entire series. The bottom of the order gave them nothing, and they just did not have an answer for the Milwaukee pitching.
Yeah, it really was a depth thing. I mean, the Canaries, again, nothing to hang their heads about. But overall, I said this, and I had when I had Tom Wynn on, and sometimes it's not a player addition; it's what that player does to adjust the lineup card. And what I'm going with this is Jose Sermo. He didn't put up MVP numbers, and he was pretty quiet most of the way. But it seemed like once they added him, and it basically just made their lineup that much deeper and that much more dangerous. When you had a guy like, got guys at the top like Tyson Davis, who are getting on base. You got your Nerias of the world, and of course Adam Brett Walker was your league MVP. It just kind of just gave them one more piece and created some depth. I don't know if it was so much the Sermo factor, but it stretched their lineup card out. How did you see that? Was that the final piece of the puzzle? Not so much Jose, but just, okay, this club's so deep, tough to beat.
Yeah, I think even with Sermo's struggles, opposing managers had to have that seed in the back of their head that there was a guy in their lineup that could hurt you if you pitched to him. So I think it helped out. It gave extra protection for Adam Brett Walker, and it also probably gave David Washington some better pitches to swing at, as we saw in Game 5. He had a big game.
Yeah, and again, depth is huge there for them. What was the atmosphere like? You were there, the clincher. I know it's really weird when a team wins on the road, because the home fans are kind of like, well, that's it, and you sort of clap for the. But what was the atmosphere like overall in the games you saw in the postseason there in Sioux Falls?
It was pretty lively for games 3 and Game 4, but it seemed like, as we were chatting back and forth with last night, it's just a Game 5 when you only got 24 hours to try to sell tickets for it. You get the diehards and not much more. But, the people that were there were engaged, and Milwaukee had a pretty decent turnout at the ballpark, too. A lot of the Pulse parents came over from Milwaukee to support the team. So, both sides had their backing, and so it kind of made for, it was a sparse crowd, but the people that were there, they were into the game.
Kevin Lucco with you. Dan Vaughn here on the Steakhouse, talking a little association wrap-up. We're kind of wrapping the whole thing up and putting it away for the to dry dock for the winter, or fall than the winter. The host families, the atmosphere, it seemed like, and you made the trip to Milwaukee. We've talked about this a little bit off the air, and we talked about it on another show, too, on my other show. The Milkmen seemed to sort of, in their expansion club, and had, the short season last year away. They didn't get a chance to play a lot of games. Then this year, this COVID mess. But they seem to have taken to this league pretty nicely, from marketing, social, in-game performance, on-field performance. This is a pretty good little operation. You saw them firsthand, what they've got there in Milwaukee as an overall organization. Boy, this just makes the league that much better, doesn't it?
Yeah, Michael Zimmerman and his crew with Rock Ventures, they've gone all in on American Association baseball, and I know a lot of us were leery at first when they decided they're going to place a team in Milwaukee. We thought, well, that's right in the heart of Northwoods League country. Is this going to be a thing where they play for maybe a year or two and decide, hey, we don't want to pay these player salaries, and why don't we just play against Madison and Manitowoc or Kenosha? But,
right.
But Michael Zimmerman, he's all in on this, and he's got a beautiful ballpark there, a nice setup with. He's got a drive-in theater behind the ballpark and an umbrella bar out beyond. So
I love that.
He's in the long haul.
I love that. I love what they've done, and it's funny because I've not been there, but I can just tell you from my conversations with executives in the Australian Baseball League, how much, because I'm often referencing obviously Kansas City, what we do in T-Bone land, and you're really close to St. Paul. I'm always referencing St. Paul, but suddenly I find myself referencing, oh, and by the way, Milwaukee does this, and oh, by the way, Milwaukee does that. And it's something that I think Sean Aronson said before. I know the league believes this, but Sean, the broadcaster of the St. Paul Saints, this league is only as strong as its weakest link. That in the more teams that are doing the pop-up bars, the drive-ins, the show they put on, the more teams doing that, this league's only going to get better, especially with the expansion looming. It has to excite the fandom. I know you're excited about it.
Yeah, Milwaukee has become one of my favorite stops, and it's generally been established already that, like, the in between inning promotions with Fireman Jim and Van McNeil. It's they're probably next to St. Paul as far as having the best in-game entertainment, and
by far.
that's quite a feather in their cap for a team that's only in their second year. But we had Zimmerman and Anthony Barone and Dan Kenzie on with us on this week of the association during the off season, and one thing they stressed to us is that they wanted to create a culture there on the field, off the field, and they took a lot of big steps in doing that this year. Obviously, winning a championship. I mean, how can you establish a better culture than that?
Right. Yeah, I mean, winning solves a lot of ills. It's something that I can tell you personally. When Brisbane in the Australian Baseball League in Perth in the West, when they're winning Claxton Shields over there, it does cover some warts. But then you also put on a great show. It just makes you that much tougher on those. And that's what St. Paul's done. I mean, St. Paul didn't win it this year, but when they and I want to ask you that to transition to that. It was weird seeing St. Paul with the limited numbers, but the show went on, and I have nothing but respect because it's been very easy, I think, for the St. Paul Saints to say, you know what, well, we can't put 8,000 people in here, so let's cut this thing back. But the show looked, from what I saw, and I watched a lot of the games on the association site, the show went on, and it was a damn good show.
Right. They didn't have like the entire entertainment staff, but there were, I don't know, about half of what they usually have. And obviously, with the restrictions that Minnesota has on attendance, there was fewer people there to be entertained, so you didn't need to have like a 10-man entertainment staff.
Sure.
But the ones that are there, yeah, the promotions went on, the on-field stuff went on. It was as close as you could get to a normal Saints game night, except that there wasn't 8,000 people.
Voice here in Kevin Luco with This Week in the American Association. I had to take sure I typed it in, so I just abbreviated it. But he and Rob Pinheiro do a phenomenal job of covering our league. These are two guys, and I've talked about this often, who they have sort of, I mean, well, you've got skin in the game. You love St. Paul, but you also love the league. You guys just labor this thing, and I have nothing but respect for what you guys do covering the league. And Kevin saw more of the association than I think probably besides the broadcasters this year than anybody. You made a lot of road trips. On your road trips this year, what stood out to you from the American Association overall? What was the one thing you think back, if you had to write a book and maybe a title of a book for this experience that was 2020, what were the things that stand out to you, being from all your travels and seeing, because you saw pretty much everybody?
It was a different vibe. With all the safety measures put into place, at times it was a little confusing. You walk into the ballpark, do I have to have a mask on? Can I go to this area? If I'm upstairs, do I have to have a mask on? Do I have to have it on when I'm drinking something? It just, you didn't want to be that one guy that everybody's looking at like, okay, how come he's not coming? So, and I think others were kind of confused with it too. So, half the time, if I'm upstairs, I'm kind of looking around like, okay, what's everyone else doing up here? So I know on my part, I opted often to just head downstairs and sit with the crowd. And I think for myself, that was a different experience because I think I've gotten a little too comfortable with being upstairs in the press box, where I kind of want to be within the crowd and see you get a better feel for the
Sure.
atmosphere of the park when you're right in the middle of all of it. So that was the big thing for me this year, was just kind of just feel like I am Joe fan at the game again.
2020, the books. Okay, this is one of the questions I saw. I actually saw a tweet from Steve Schuster, and he was talking about this. And I love these hypothetical questions. There's never really a right or wrong answer here, and I don't know if we'll ever find out for sure. But was that Milwaukee team, if they come back next year, let's just, obviously that's not going to be the case because players returning to their own clubs, things of that nature. But as that roster is constructed, a normal 12-team league where they won 65 games, that super team, were they that good?
They were that good, yeah, talent-wise. But like you said, you're not going to see a team like that again because of way we are with the amount of veterans we can have and the
Right.
different salary cap that would be in place. A lot of those guys, I think, are going to be heading back to Mexico or the Atlantic
Sure.
League to play next year. So,
Yeah.
we may never see a starting rotation like we saw with Milwaukee again. So it
Sure.
was fun just to watch and appreciate that while we could.
Sure, those super teams like that. If you not noticed, you guys have been watching the transaction where you've seen all the teams have been shipping those guys back, previous trades where they went the whole team, what have you. So some of those folks looking at a couple of not just of course the T-Bones, we've kind of joked around called the Milk Bones, but the T-Bones connections, Dylan Tice. Of course, Mason Davis, the former T-Bone, Dylan Baker, was on the T-Bone roster this year. Adam Brett Walker, of course, played with the T-Bones 2 years ago. Part of a really good story, which I think I've shared a couple of times. Part of when the T-Bones lost 3 players in a weekend to affiliated ball on the opening weekend. One of the players didn't even get off the bus on the opening start. So when Joe had you have to plug those places in, and of course Christian Correa. You start looking at those guys, a lot of connections, and those guys will be heading back. Cleburne also. Zach Nerrier and Logan Trowbridge, but Nerrier the MVP. I would think, and I don't know, you've talked to many of the other organization guys, the Steve Montgomerys of the world in Sioux City, but I'm assuming those guys are chopping at the bit to get those players back, I would think.
Yeah, if you listen to Rob's latest show, Mountain Talk with Steve Montgomery, Steve talked extensively how all summer he watched games throughout the league. And I thought it was kind of an interesting point that Steve made, along with watching his players that he's going to be getting back. He also did a bit of a study on the North Division teams, such as, okay, one out,
Sure.
Are they hitting running here? He's kind of keeping track of what they're doing situationally so that when they play against the North next year, he's going to go back in those notes and try to get him a bit of a scouting report. So
that's very interesting, and I need to check that out. And by the way, if you guys, let me put that on the screen for you too. This week in the American, this week in the association. It's there it is. This week in the it's actually this week in the American Association, but I couldn't fit the whole thing on there. But you guys drop now. You're going to go into your off-season mode, but you guys drop that podcast, and of course he does. Rob, your partner, is doing podcasts for like what, 3 or 4 different teams, something like that. But that's up on it. Where can they find that? I guess because I'd love to have people check that out when they're done with our show.
Well, you can go to minorleaguesportsreport.com, and Rob will have all of those podcasts listed in his website. What I personally do, I have Podbean on my phone. I click on that, and I'll do a search for Minor League Sports Report. And then all the podcasts, including This Week in Association, everything that Rob does pops up on there, and it just makes it for easily. You can navigate through that to get to whatever show you'd like to listen to.
There you go, right there. Just kind of a couple little odds and ends. I am impressed, and I because of when this whole thing started, Major League Baseball it was a mess, and so you're thinking if Major League Baseball can't get off the ground, how's the Little American Association going to fight through this and dodge all the naysayers, the haymakers, the COVID situation? But they did. Only one COVID out. I think it's a phenomenal, inspirational story. I've tweeted that, what the league did, the owners, I mean, all the ball clubs involved. Is this a sports story that maybe should be told a little bit more? I don't think anybody's talking about it, but this little league pulled it off, and I got to say, an A+. I mean, are you kind of shocked that no one's talking about it, or is this because it's minor league sport? But it's a huge story, I think.
Yeah, I think because it's an independent league sport, maybe it flies under the radar a bit, but I see it as it could be a prototype for a lot of the other minor leagues to look at when it comes to trying to open up their seasons, whether it be indoor soccer,
sure,
hockey, go to next spring and you got indoor football. So, it'd be Josh Schaub kind of set the bar for what teams need to do to get through a season. But yeah, there were naysayers out there. There's a independent baseball podcast out east that mostly focuses on the Eastern teams, but they're dabbling a lot with the association this year. And I can remember their host saying, "Well, there's no way they should have games where every fan should have to wear a mask." And I just thought, wow, people aren't going to want to go to the ballpark and feel like they're being governed. They want freedom to do what they want, wear a mask, don't wear a mask, but get to enjoy baseball. So, what I say, both missions were accomplished. So the games got in, the fans were able to enjoy without being over governed. So,
right. Well, it was a great year, and we could go on and on. And I keep saying this, and we need to work this out because I've talked about this a couple of years ago. But on our radio broadcast, we need to get you and Rob rotating every week and get you guys on the pregame because it's now I can do that a lot easier with that thought. Looking to 2021, assuming everything is all capiche and we go forward, we don't have any teams. Every team survives. Do you have an early? I mean. There we go. Sorry about that. I was kind of doing a couple things there. Sorry about that. Hope you guys enjoyed back here. Loco there this week. So I messaged Kevin because that was actually on tape, but I want to get to that because I did see that this morning overnight, and the Greers brought up a really good question. And I think there's probably two answers, and I'm going to see if I can put the quote up. I've got the quote here. And I don't know if it's too long, so let me read it to you. I've been trying to put the quote up for the last 5 minutes, and that's why I was kind of behind there. But by the way, welcome back to the Steakhouse. Dan Vaughn with you here on a Wednesday. We got a lot more to go here as the second half hour upon us. In case you did not see this, now Kevin just reached out to me, and I got his quote. He's telling me, Donna, that nothing but speculation, but to the ownership spot with Ottawa, it's possible he might own both teams. I think that's kind of where the Winnipeg. I look at the Winnipeg Sun, for example. This is all over the paper in Winnipeg this morning, and I did see this on Twitter last night. And it's in my show script. I didn't know if anybody was going to catch it, but it was in my script to talk about the second half, and I really appreciate you guys bringing that up. But I would say most of the time our interviews are live, but that one was taped. And the quote from Stan Katz says, moving the team is clearly not off the table, according to the Winnipeg Sun at this point. But his quote was, realistically speaking, you always have options, Katz said. If things don't work out with the city council, there are all sorts of options. But the bottom line is I want baseball to stay in Winnipeg, and I want the Gold Eyes to stay in Winnipeg for a long time. But it's the council's hands, not in my hands. Now, for you folks throughout the American Association who do not follow Winnipeg closely, and I think a lot of us sort of are in the same boat. I know about this. This has been an ongoing thing. According to the article, it says, I believe here somewhere in the article, it talks about they incurred about a 7-figure loss this year. You remember the Gold Eyes didn't play any home games at all. Everything was on the road. There was no home games, nothing, no merch. I mean, they sold merch, but no revenue coming in for the Gold Eyes from Gold Eye Baseball, except for other, there are other things possibly, but I don't know their books, of course. But they've been on a long-term, I don't think the word fight is the proper thing. They're at a standstill. They've drawn a line in the sand, and on one side is the Gold Eye ownership, the Gold Eyes, on the other side's the city council or the council there in Winnipeg. I think it's probably a twofold thing. I would think if you read the articles, leaving the tea leaves, as Paul and I like to say in Australia, it looks like this is kind of, I think the first thing is you want to bring a team to Ottawa. Ottawa's a good baseball. Ottawa's a great sports market. I love going to Ottawa a couple of years ago when the Can-Am League team had a team there, the AAA park. It's a huge park. There's an opportunity there in Ottawa. It's a large city. It's a cool city, a really cool place to go there in Ottawa, in Canada. And of course, it's way across the country from Winnipeg. I think, they'd like to put a team there. I think Katz could own both teams. That's not a problem. But I think this also does give him leverage against Winnipeg that if, hey, you know what, you don't want us to play, what that does to the American Association, I have no idea. but I would venture to guess there'd be some kind of juggling around down the road. But it does give him that option that, hey, if Winnipeg can't reach a deal with the city council of Winnipeg, that makes sense. But just seeing that quote and just seeing that it does, and hey, that's the nature of sports. I mean, we've been through this in Kansas City, and I would venture to guess as well, assuming they couldn't work out a deal in Winnipeg, that ballpark wouldn't sit idle for very long. I mean, maybe for maybe a year or two, but by and large, those ballparks just don't sit there idle, with the exception of maybe a Fort Worth. Maybe that's the one place that I've been wrong about that. But these things happen. I mean, cities and teams that negotiate. I mean, when the T-Bones were sold, one of the things that Mark Brandmeier and company had to do was work out a new lease with Wyandotte, with the unified government. And these things teams got to work out, and especially in a change. And Winnipeg's been there a long time, a great steward of the community. The Goldeyes mean a lot to that summer in Manitoba. I mean, I can tell you right now, having been there over the years, people are engaged with that ball club. They love that ball club. It's part of the fabric of what a Manitoban summer is about, is a Winnipeg Goldeye game. And I can't tell you how many times I've been in town and I've stopped off at a place to eat or lunch or whatever or anywhere, and they say, well, what are you doing in town? And I'm like, well, I'm here with the team playing the Goldeyes. They're like, oh, wow, oh, man, we're there tonight. Or whatever. It's a big deal, but it's still a business. And I think what they're doing makes sense. So to answer your question, maybe I've gone a long tangent here, but it makes sense. I would think this is for expansion down the road for Ottawa to be in either Atlantic, Can-Am / Frontier, whatever's now the Frontier there, or American Association, or leverage in case that Winnipeg can't work out something with the city. They got a place to play. So I think it's probably dual ownership is the first priority, but you still have that in the back of your bag there. Okay, glad you're along on a Wednesday. Questions or comments, always fire them away. Glad you're along. Yes, happy birthday to my wife. Got to catch. Glad you're here. Glad you guys are here. Let me pull up the broadcast here as well, as I do believe we are. Sorry about that. Thank you, by the way, Kevin, for reaching out. Oops, sorry about that. There we go. Glad you guys are along here on a Wednesday. A lot to get to still. Let's jump into what happened in Milwaukee and Sioux Falls the last fortnight. Congratulations to the Milwaukee Milkmen. They're champions of the American Association. By now, you guys have probably seen that. A lot of T-Bones connections, the Milk Bones, we've called them. Congratulations to those guys. As we talked about with Kevin, I don't think there's any doubt. I mean, that they were the best team. I mean, and no disrespect to Sioux Falls or anybody else, but Sioux Falls and listening to the broadcast, Sioux Falls knew it. I mean, they gave a heck of a fight, a great fight. They were a great ball club, but Milwaukee just had they checked all the boxes, and you're going to hear from Dylan Tyson a bit later. He talks about that. This team was super, and they definitely congratulations to the Milwaukee Milkmen. I won it last week. I took the series 4-1 last Thursday. David Holmberg, who's going back over to Australia again, this guy, he's your, I mean, if Tommy Collier does what Tommy Collier did at 18, he meant that to the T-Bones. This guy meant that to Milwaukee. I mean, he was that guy every fifth day. You knew you were going to get your 6-7, keep you in the ball game. You know, he was going to be there. And this is the guy you wanted starting your opener and in game 5. And he didn't get to a game 6 or 7. Milwaukee didn't get to go back home. They won it there in Sioux Falls over the course of the of last Thursday. But let me give you guys a little some of the odds ins. We're talking a bit about the umpiring as well. You can see the umpires there as we open up the highlights of the association final.
Swings a high fly to right. Coulter turning and looking, and that ball is long gone. Solo
David Washington, solo home run early for
Milwaukee leads 1-0.
Good looking starter for the Sioux Falls Canaries.
To left center field, roaming back is Ryan Brett. He looks up, and that ball is long gone over the wall for a home run
as well. That's Logan Trowbridge.
It's a high fly to left. Ryan Brett heads back a few steps, just maybe deep enough to score the run. Brett is underneath and makes the catch. Tice tags in third. The throw comes in. It won't be in time. Tice scores. Sacrifice fly to Arp.
Birds did get a hit off Holmberg.
Swing and a miss. Strike 3. And the Milwaukee Milkmen are champions of the American Association 2020.
Really the big highlight for the Canaries.
And after this strange, challenging, and very rewarding 2020 season.
Come back, and we'll get to more of that in a moment. But the Canaries do drop it by a score 4-1 as Milwaukee wins it. There's your highlights of the association final game right there as the Milwaukee Milkmen win it. Final out here. I want to play this final out. I thought Carter Waddell did a really good job. Milwaukee, and we talked a bit about this. There was some talk. I was going to try to go up and call the game for Milwaukee on the radio side. They didn't have their own broadcast. I couldn't make it work. I had a commitment with my family. I just couldn't make work, and I need to be here for that. But I want to give you guys the final out here. I thought Carter did a really good job, the final out. Let's go ahead and play that for you guys, courtesy of the American Association and courtesy of the Sioux Falls Canaries and the league website. Let's play the final out here. Oops, try it again here. There we go.
Pitches. Swing and a miss, strike 3. And the Milwaukee Milkmen are champions of the American Association 2020. And after this strange, challenging, and very rewarding 2020 season, the journey ends here for the Sioux Falls Canaries. The Milkmen, in their second year of existence, reign supreme in the association. And it is heartbreak for Sioux Falls tonight. They fall in Game 5. Adam, this was a memorable series, a memorable season. In the end, the Milkmen were the better team.
Yeah, great all-around performance by the Milkmen. They were one of the top teams this entire season. That pitching staff just kept on propelling them to wins, and their bats got it done when they needed to. Congratulations.
Yeah, right there. That's courtesy of the Sioux Falls Canaries broadcast and also the American Association. You saw the logo at the bottom, and appreciate Carter and Adam. They're great work right there, and it's tough. I mean, and he was calling the game for basically both audiences, and to it's tough when your team doesn't win it. And I thought he handled it very well. I can't sit here and tell you as a veteran that I'd have been very graceful. Gracious is the word in defeat, but very good stuff right there. But yeah, big time. Of course, it's not the big celebration for those Milkmen and their fans. You see some of the highlight video right here of the post-game celebration there in Sioux Falls. And of course, the commissioner and the president of the league right there passing up the trophy to ownership, and really good stuff right there. Zach Nerier was named the Finals MVP. No argument right there. Just overall, Milwaukee's first American Association title, joined the league a year ago, their inaugural season in 19. They went 38-62 a year before and missed the playoffs, but this year the best record, 34-26. And see the celebration. Let the celebration begin as the Milkmen definitely get the celebration in. And congratulations to Milwaukee for what they did. I couldn't. There's again, like I said this for you guys before, I have no argument with anyone. It didn't matter who was going to win this thing this year. It didn't matter to me. I mean, I think because, and you see that this is kind of fun. Those Milton folks are celebrating there in Milwaukee. Good on them. There's the Milwaukee faithful. But I had no issue with any team winning this year. I really didn't. I think that this year, because, I mean, usually, when we lost to Sioux City last year, I was in the dumps. I mean, I was hoping St. Paul would beat Sioux City. I got to admit. I mean, Sioux City got the better of us, and I love Steve Montgomery. I love those people up there, but it hurt. I mean, but this year, I don't. I mean, in years past, I would have said, "Oh, I don't want Winnipeg." Sorry about that. I don't know what happened. It's not on my end, but I believe the server overloaded is what I was told. So we were right in the middle of a conversation there, and I'm sorry. Sorry about that. It's going to foul up post-production because now I'm going to spend the afternoon when I need other things to do to piece this thing together so I can repost it on the T-Bone's website or T-Bone site. But you guys aren't concerned about that. Sorry about that. Sorry you guys lost me there. Let me kind of catch you guys up. We were talking about, and I'm not even sure where I was. We were wrapping up the association season, but let me let you guys get caught up here. Again, I do apologize. I don't know. Again, don't know what. I don't know. It's a little frustrating, but I believe we're back on. So we're back live, or we were live. Let's see here. I'm trying to get this pulled up so we can. All righty. I do believe we're back live. So I'm seeing the countdown going. So and it's got to catch up here. I was actually going to brag about the Be Live, and they really are good. Their customer service is great, but you're in the middle of a show, you get knocked off for no fault of your own. So I'll let you guys get caught up here. Again, I apologize. We were running a little behind anyways, trying to play catch up. But anyway, the Steakhouse is on, I think. I hope. I have to fire up the phone again because it's not even communicating with me as well. So let me restart this bad boy, and let's just see. But give me a moment. I do apologize. Let's just see here. I'm just going to I'll go to Facebook and see if it's there. Yeah, I don't know why my videos aren't showing up on Facebook. It's weird. It's strange. I don't know what's going on. Yeah, we're live. I believe we are live. I see we're live now. So again, sorry about that, guys. I do see we're live. So again, apologize. What was I talking about? We were talking about what were we talking about? I hear myself in that. We're all good. What were we talking about? We were talking about the association finals, but I don't know where I was in this whole thing. Milwaukee, again, the league's best record. Anyway, like any good restaurant, we apologize when our service is bad and our product is bad. That was bad, and I do apologize. We're having a great show, though. I was loving it. So much for finishing strong. We're gonna the show strong. We're gonna finish this thing strong, though. The last few minutes, and I'm gonna try to fight through it. Let's get this thing going. Okay. A guy who was there the front lines all year. I say front lines of the baseball lines. Dylan Tice, of course. The breaking news, and I'm going to reference this in our talk here in a moment, but in case you didn't see this yesterday, and a lot of this has been going on the last week or so. You've seen on Twitter the associations listed players return to here, there, everywhere. Kevin referenced it. Kevin Luco did a moment ago about guys going back to Mexico and there are different clubs. Hey, you know what? As Dylan and I were talking, Dylan basically went from being a Milwaukee Milkman back to being a T-Bone. Dylan Tice is a T-Bone again, as his rights returned to Kansas City earlier in the week as well. But Milwaukee Milkman champion, and then also Dylan Tice is a T-Bone champion as well. A little bit of both. But Dylan kind enough to join us on the Steakhouse. Let's go ahead and roll that interview. Taped again. I'll pull the curtain back. Let's go ahead and roll it. Glad you guys are on the Steakhouse. Sorry about we lost you a moment ago. Go ahead and roll it. Welcome Dylan Tice to the show.
Be strong.
Well, the Steakhouse continues as promised. It's weird because he was a Milwaukee Milkman yesterday, and he's a T-Bone again today. But let's go back to the season. Dylan Tice, with you. Good to see you, Dylan, joining us. Congratulations, you won a ring, and well-earned ring. First off, congratulations. Good to see you. You had a chance to catch your breath yet?
Yeah, Dan, thanks for having me on. It's good to see you too. And yeah, finally I got home. 2 days ago, and I finally be able to unpack and relax and catch up with my family and things like that. But yeah, it was still kind of surreal. I'm seeing the videos float around of the championship and the celebration and everything, and it kind of takes you back every time. It's exciting.
It's pretty easy to say this when a team wins a title. I mean, so many things go right. It's always, a team effort. But I really felt for you guys, and I watched a lot of those games for those Milwaukee Milkmen this year. It seems like whenever something needed to happen, somebody stepped up. I mean, it would be Christian Correa one night, it'd be you the next night, Mason Davis. I'm using, of course, former T-Bones, but there were others too. I mean, a big pitching performance from one of their top starters. Maybe it was Peyton Gray in the bullpen getting a big save. That was just, I know it makes it so easy to say that, but it seemed like you guys really were it was always somebody stepping up.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. Like even obviously look at our pitching numbers, and our pitching numbers were ridiculous. Like the way those guys did it, and like not only were their numbers really good, they pitched at a big time spots. Like, you know, we'd make an error, pass ball, or something like that. Man on third, nobody out. They'd go strikeout, and just do things like that. But on the offensive side, like if you look at our numbers, obviously it's kind of the other way. Like if you look at our team just on paper, you kind of think, how did they win? And but like you said, it's kind of, we had a bunch of guys that knew how to win, and even if, you know, I didn't have my best year, Nerier didn't have his best year statistic wise, Mason obviously, like, and not even didn't have our best years, like statistically wise, we're 50, 60 points off of our, you know, our average from the previous years. Like it wasn't like we had just hit 10 points lower. You know, I hit 315, 316 last year. I think this year I hit 260. So it wasn't even close, you know, and part of that was how good the pitching was, but part of it is, you know, it's baseball, it's tough. And it was just kind of one of those things where even after I was 0-4, Mason was 0-4, Zach was, you know, 0-3, 0-4, Vertigan, some of these guys, when it came down to the ninth inning, like we're still playmakers, you know, we're still all-stars from last year. Like we're still guys that love those moments. And I think that's kind of why we were good, because when it came to winning time, like we had a bunch of winners and we had ball players that knew how to win. Even if we weren't going 2-for-4 every game like we were, and we weren't scoring 10 runs a game like people thought we were going to, you know, when it was 2-2 in the ninth, you had 9 guys in that lineup that wanted to be at the plate. And I think that kind of helped us win. I think that's why we won.
Dylan Tice, Dan Vaughn with you here in the Steakhouse on a Wednesday. These were super teams. I mean, all the teams, all 6 teams that played were stacked with, I mean, it was stacked a lot. I mean, I'd hate him in a pitcher or really a batter facing what you're facing, but this team was super. Was this the most talented team you played with in a while? I mean, is this one of the more, or maybe it's putting pressure on other teams you played with, but is this one of the more talented teams you played with? Maybe that's the best way I should say it.
Yeah, I mean, I've honestly been lucky to be on a lot of winning teams. I was telling some of the guys, in my pro career, I haven't been on one losing team. I think in high, I got caught up to one, but like for the most part, like I've been on good teams. That's just luck. It's dumb luck. But yeah, this team was crazy talented. This is the best pitching staff I've ever been with in my entire life. And even just the fact that like a normal bullpen has guys that have stuff, right? Everyone has stuff, but there's those guys that when you come in, you're like, all right, are they going to have it today or not? You know, they'll come in, either strike 3 out, or sometimes guys will come in and throw 8 straight balls and you got to go to the next guy. And we didn't have anybody like that. It seemed like everybody we had stuff and everybody could pitch. So playing defense was fun. It was easy, and these guys got you going. Now offensively, it was obviously a very talented roster too. That T-Bones championship team from 2 years ago was pretty talented as well, especially on the offensive side of the ball. So, I mean, looking at the whole team, it's hard. I mean, it's hard to pick and choose. This team was pretty special, and they're all unique in their own way. You know, the way we won was different. That T-Bones team we hit, I mean, we bashed. The numbers on that team were ridiculous, and this team was kind of different. This team played defense. We played athletic defense. It wasn't just to make the play, it's hit to you and guys with low amount of errors. Like we made big plays. We turned big double plays. I mean, Mason would make a big diving play. We had probably the 2 best outfielders in the league playing center and left or right. And then we had the MVP in left. So it was just, it's a different style of baseball this year. You know, our games were 2.5 hours. When we played for the T-Bones, every game was 4.5 hours because we just put up runs, and it was just a different style of baseball. So it's hard to really compare which team was better, but they were both like uniquely really impressive teams, you know, in their own way.
Yeah, that's a fact. Because a couple of times I'd walk away and go or make a snack or whatever and come back to the game, and you guys I'm like, wait, it should have been like a half inning. You guys were already 2 inning and a half down the road. That's all you guys didn't mess around.
Yeah.
The Milwaukee Milkman experience, it seemed like from where I was sitting, you guys had a heck of a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun, it looked like.
Yeah, I mean, that was part of what Anthony talked about in the beginning and last time I talked to you, we talked about how he wanted to bring in veteran guys, and he was a first-year manager and stuff, so he was going to lean on us and kind of let us do our own thing, and he did. And that's kind of why it got that way is it got to the point where we were just kind of loose and we could do it as we wanted. And even in the playoffs, like the championship, you know, it didn't really – like it's hard for a team to play games at the end of the season that don't matter and turn around and lock it in when they have to. And I think we were all kind of nervous about that. But when you have a veteran club, like, you got to lock it in. You know, I think the last game of the year didn't matter to either either team. It was pouring down rain. We didn't want to play. The league made us play. I was 0 for 5 with 4 strikeouts, had 4 strikeouts for the first time in my life. And then we turned around and scored 6 the opening inning 3 days later in the championship. So I think that just goes to show like how much fun we did have and how much like we just had leadership. We had veterans and we had guys that have been there. And as soon as you thought it wasn't going to happen and we were going to fall into a trap, like we stopped the ship and turned it around. And that's kind of why this team was good.
2020 has been a crazy year, and you talked about this the last time we had you on the Steakhouse. How was the whole daily? Did you guys realize it was 2020 and the COVID thing? Did it finally become normal to you guys, or was it still the entire season kind of an out-of-body, strange experience? Because it seemed like we're all still in an out-of-body experience, but did you guys get some normalcy once you got in a routine?
Yeah, I think so. And I also think people talked about how good our chemistry was, and I think that had a lot to do with it because, you know, it's a tough year as far as like getting people together from all over the country. Obviously, there's different, you know, when it comes to COVID, there's different point of views, there's political views, there's all kinds of things like this that come together. And it's like really, really hard because there's always going to be people disagree. And I think our team was like, we just had a lot of really respectful and smart guys that kind of obviously didn't agree on those things. They were from different areas, but we did a really good job of like helping that kind of build our chemistry as opposed to tear it apart. Now, when we had some of these positive tests and stuff, and we started talking COVID, like we had a team meeting and we had ownership, our GM, you know, Dan Zimmerman and or Mike Zimmerman, Dan Kenzie. And like we had a meeting with everybody and the players spoke. We had kind of like the players kind of talked about what we wanted, he talked about. And it was really good in the fact that like he did a great job. Our ownership did a great job of hearing us, you know, and it's kind of one of those things where independent ball would be very easy for him to be like, I'm the owner, I'm the coach, I'm the GM. This is how it's going to be. Take it or leave it. And they were really respectful to us. And I think that helped us as a team as well, chemistry wise. And that helped us kind of get through some of these things that were so tough, you know, because nobody really knows how to handle those things. And we kind of decided to do it as a team and see what we thought was best. And we rolled that way.
Down the road, and this may not be as important now, but I think down the road, and you're going to look back on this experience and say, boy, I was one of the few people played baseball that summer of 2020. The little engine that could, I'm amazed from where I'm sitting just how efficient the league was, how the teams handled themselves. Have you thought about that? I mean, because baseball itself is kind of black eye this summer with what's happened here and there. But the little engine that could, the American Association, dang it, it was a great story. Is that something you've thought about? I mean, it's almost incident-free summer it was.
Yeah, well, obviously none of us thought we were going to play. And then when we did play, like we kind of had the whole thing in the beginning with when we got there, the testing, and we had to cancel a game because of positive tests and things like that. And I honestly, at that point, like wasn't sure we were going to finish the year. And I think a lot of guys were kind of thinking that way. And when you look at the other leagues, they've all had the same thing where they kind of start off rocky and then they kind of find their groove and things like that. Because, you know, we had a few positive tests. I know other teams had positive tests. We kind of did our protocol, got it taken care of, and moved on. Now you look at the MLB, they had that. A few teams pop off in the beginning. The NFL had some canceled practice and stuff early. And then eventually, you know, and then college football, you know, the Big Ten said they weren't going to do it. Now they're turning around and they're trying to play again because they're seeing these other leagues have kind of found a way to do it. And I mean, whatever is right or wrong, I don't know. They're all separate and unique, but I'm saying the way we did it is we did kind of take that lump in the beginning and learned. And like the whole league, you know, by the end we had mandated masks in the clubhouse, in the locker room. You know, when we first got there weren't really any rules because I don't think no one knew what to do. And obviously you take in the political side of things too, is, you know, you have people doing what they want and things like that. So obviously, when we started, it was a little rocky and there were some questions and things, but the league reeled it in real quick. And I think and our team and our ownership and everything did a good job to kind of figure out what we wanted. You know, how do we want to handle it as a team as opposed to like the league putting in these mandated rules and doing everything by the textbook.
Steakhouse, Dan Vaughn with you. Dylan Tice with you here on a Wednesday, talking a little baseball. And congratulations to Dylan and the Milwaukee Milkmen for the championship. Couple of final things. First off, have you talked to Joe Kath-Pietra? Did you and him have a conversation yet about, hey, congratulations, proud of you, buddy?
Oh yeah, he texted me right away. Of course, you know Joe, he cares about all his players. So yeah, we talked. We talked throughout the year too, and just kind of what things are going on. And he's not coaching this year, so he's losing his mind. You know, missing baseball and things like that. So no, we've been talking. Of course, I love Joe, and it's always good to be in touch with him.
As far as the experience in Milwaukee, it looked like, you guys were treated fairly well. You enjoyed that whole part of it, host family and all that. That all worked out for you?
Yeah, it was great. I can't complain. I had a blast. We had a good situation. Obviously, it helps on your team. You have good guys. We didn't have any bad eggs in the locker room and things like that. And like I said, we had good ownership, a nice stadium, played on turf, and whatever else. And it was kind of Kansas City's not too far away, so it's pretty relative to what I was used to and things there. So yeah, I just had the opportunity to meet more good people and more relationships, kind of just like Kansas City. Being there for 2-3 years, like a lot of friends out there. Between you and John West and my host Mom Millie and everybody else, that we love out there. I met just as many people here that I love too. So it was really fun to kind of double down and have a second experience. That was just amazing.
That's awesome. It looked like you guys, I mentioned a lot of fun. That Tim Dillard is a character, isn't he? That guy, he was involved when he got to y'all. He was involved in every little bit you guys did. You had some fun little videos y'all did, but was he the ringleader of that fun? He looked like a crazy guy to have in the clubhouse.
Yeah, and that's part of another chemistry thing is like he kind of came in late and he just lightened things up. And the thing I learned about with him is he just kind of made things so simple. As we were doing a lot of thinking, especially as hitters, we were all kind of struggling, which was weird because we were winning. We had guys hitting 240, 250, but we were winning. So you're not too upset, but at the same time, you're like, why am I not hitting like I usually do, And he kind of came in, just loosened things up. Just, hey, play hard. You got nothing to do after the game. Just play hard today. Just play hard today. We'll rest after the game. It kind of made it one of those things. And he just had so much energy all the time. And he was in our, being a starting pitcher, he's in the dugout during the games. He's not throwing. He's being the bat boy and whatever else. And then you have the locker room fun and the videos and everything else. So, yeah, he was just around the field all the time, and he was just around. And I think a lot of guys learned from him. And for me, it just helped, kind of simplify the game of, it is fun. Let's just loosen up and play. I get a little too intense, I think, at times where it becomes like a job, where I'm like, this has to happen. We have to do better here. As opposed to, some guys that see the game as a game and as a fun game, can do it a little better. And so, kind of finding that balance and being around him and loosening up a little bit and learning was a lot of fun. And I think he had a lot to do with our chemistry.
Final two things. The final real thing. I got this. I saw this early in the season, or maybe midway the season. You guys hit a home run, and part of your social distancing protocol was, a lot of teams are doing the elbows, but you guys are doing some kind of handoff. You hit a home run. You'd round third, the third base coach. It looked like you guys are doing like a NFL or college handoff. What was that you guys would? What was that little thing you guys did when you rounded and scored a home run?
Well, we just did like AB was the quarterback handing off the football. You take the hand off and you take it to the plate. So just another way to have some fun. But and then people talk about our homers, but really our homers were all pretty much one guy. Adam Brett Walker had just about half of our homers, but so you really
he was great.
He was unbelievable. Yeah, we had some fun. We had different ways and uniqueness, and with the COVID, you find different ways to do things. So it was fun.
Loved it. So for you, the off season's here. Any big plans? Going to take it easy, go to school, plan your future, packed for Kansas City. What do you got going on? So
I'm currently taking classes now. I'll be graduating in December, which is miserable, but I'm doing it. Yes, it's not fun. And then
what's your degree going to be in, by the way? I should know this.
Interdisciplinary studies. Hence, I'm just trying to get a degree. I'm not
Congratulations.
Really anything, but so I'm doing that. My fiance and I are apartment shopping. That's equally as fun. And then we have the wedding planning coming up too. So
yeah, you got nothing on your plate.
No, exciting future things that are stressful / fun / exciting and whatever else. But yeah, they're all learning experiences, and we're trying to plow through them.
Yeah, we us old people call those things called life, as we call them. But just
I guess you could say I'm starting life. Yeah, at 27, I'm a little later than most people start life, but here I am trying my best.
Did you make it home in time? Did you make it home in time for family game night? Because I know it's a big thing in your family. Did you make it home in time for the family game night?
No, this weekend I went and saw the kids, but this weekend they'll be here, and my brother's home and things this weekend, so that's kind of when we'll get to catch up and do some things. But they awesome. No, we haven't played. We're out of quarantine now, so we've been able to get outside. So our game nights are turning more into like football games out in the backyard. So
Dylan, congratulations on a ring, and looking forward to seeing you down the road. We'll get you back on when we get in our off-season mode, but congratulations on all the things that are going on in your life, and always for taking the time and joining us. And man, we're T-Bone's family is so proud of you and the rest of the boys as well. But big thumbs up, mate.
Thank you, Dan. I appreciate it. Appreciate having me on. Thanks.
Be strong.
Oh, big thanks to Dylan Tice there for joining us there on the show. Big thanks. I mean, congratulations too as well. I mean, the young man, let's see, he won a championship. He's going to get married. He's got a degree coming. And oh yeah, he's a T-Bone again. Not a bad little couple of weeks, right? I mean, it's a pretty good little ride right there. Steakhouse, glad you're along. Good to see Cousin Blake. Good to see Brooke out there. During the interview, a lot of folks from Australia had Spider joining us from Perth. Alex, my mate Alex in Victoria. Hope you guys are doing well in Australia. We'll talk a little bit about Australia in just a moment. But the Steakhouse, glad you're along. We've had a little stop-start today, but we're going to wrap this thing up, rounding third, heading for home on your the edition now. Again, a big thanks to Dylan and from those Milwaukee Milkmen, and now back as a T-Bone. So looking forward to that, and all good. One more note to pass along from the association. We went through all the awards last 2 weeks ago, but there was a little question: who might or what? That's a who. It's not really a who because the field of the year is not a who. It's well, you know what? Yeah, the grass is a living thing, right? Okay, maybe it is a who. I don't know. But anyway, what was going to be the field? Who was going to be the field of the year? Who was going to get the best playing surface in the American Association? Lincoln has that award pretty much every year, but Lincoln didn't play this year. I didn't know who to vote for. I didn't see the fields in person, but the folks that did vote, and that one voted CHS Field in St. Paul as the association playing surface of the year. So congratulations to St. Paul. Very good stuff. By the way, if you didn't get a chance, and I probably should have pulled a link up for this, but just thinking this in passing, Sean Aronson, the voice of the St. Paul Saints, and his staff did a very, very funny bit with on Twitter and Instagram. I believe it was Twitter, Instagram, and on Facebook, where he broke up with the American Association. Actually, the American Association trophy broke up with him. And it was a couple of weeks ago. Very funny stuff what they did, but very, very good. But congratulations to St. Paul on getting the playing surface of the year in the American Association. All right, wrapping this thing up here as we go forward. I want to give you guys a couple things. First off, I want to wish. You know what? Let's do it now. Just do this now. I want to wish this lovely lady, well, on the lady on the right, happy birthday. It's WD-40's birthday. My wife, Gamery's birthday. There's Caroline and her. This was around Caroline went to the dorm a couple weeks ago, and let's see. There we are, right there, a couple weeks ago as well. Just a couple of young kids from Trinity Christian doing our thing. There we are, watching our first live baseball game last Saturday, a week ago, there at the Mavs Park there in downtown Dallas. Just want to wish my wife, and there she is at St. Mark's graduation about a month or so ago. And there we go. I want to sing to my wife today. So like we do in the broadcast, I do this in the broadcast all the time. So let's go ahead and fire off a little happy birthday to my wife, and let's fire off to her. How about it? So a little happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, WD-40. Love you, babe. Happy birthday to you. Of course, you guys know, on T-Bone's broadcast, if you let me know your birthday, I usually sing to you folks as well. I've bored many a listener on the radio with my broadcast chops, if you will. I don't even have any Jaeger bombs in me either to get through the karaoke in that one. Anyway, happy birthday, babe, and she's a big part of what I do, and a big thanks to her. Again, my wife supports the T-Bones and what I do with the T-Bones and just in career-wise, and I just a big thank you and just so very blessed and thankful to have my wife along for the ride. So big thanks. Okay, what's going to happen now? We're in a hot stove mode, as I mentioned earlier, and again, this was what we talked about, hot stove mode. It's our hot stove mode. We talked about the history of the hot stove. What we're going to do, now this show goes back to its off-season normal place, which is our normal Steakhouse show is an off-season show usually once a month during the fall months, twice a month in the winter months. And as we get closer to the season, we start a week. And then as we get to Kansas City, we start with our normal T-Bones broadcast, which includes T-Bones pregame live, T-Bones postgame live, which those will be back next year. And then also our award-winning steakhouse show, our award-winning Cup of Sizzle show, which airs every Monday through Friday during the lunch hour, home and away during the T-Bones baseball season. Those will all be back. But that'll be in 2021. But right now we go to Dry Dock. We are going to have Joe Capietra. I believe we'll have him, I hope, on our debut show of the offseason. We do break down that hot stove. So we'll have him on for the hot stove. What we do, we'll come in as news merits. So what you'll do, you'll follow us on Twitter. Twitter's the best place as far as player moves. We're going to have those for you. I'll tweet those. The T-Bones will as well. Morgan and I both will tweet those moves for you. And then we'll look into the tail end of October, early November, before Thanksgiving. We'll kind of kind of preview where the roster sits. We'll have Joe on. We'll have Chris Brown, others on for the organization, Mark Brandmeier hopefully as well, as we get kind of going into our off-season mode. So we're going to be there. This show will not air unless there's breaking news. We'll do that as well. If there's a major breaking news, there's a major trade, and the T-Bones acquired Nolan Ryan in his prime, we're going to break in and let you know that right here on Facebook Live and on Twitter and all those other channels as well. We're working on some other cross-pollinations. I've talked about that, and this summer's allowed me to work on those things going forward for 2021. So there is your program notes for this show and where it's going to stand. You can follow me on the channels right there. There we go. We got your Instagram at the bottom, Dan Vaughn Jr., Dan Vaughn, and YouTube, and then Dan Vaughn Jr. on Twitter. I'll follow you back. If you follow me, I'll be more than happy to follow you back. I'm all good about that, as we'll share that social media love right there. Of course, you can follow the T-Bones at tbonesbaseball.com. And, of course, the T-Bones Twitter at T-Bones Baseball on our Instagram, all of our channels right there. Love to have you guys do that as well. I mentioned Australia, and I'm very proud of this show. It's we're really rolling right along. It's a show that Paul Morgan and I do from, he's in Perth, I'm in Dallas, and it's Talking Baseball Australia Live, as we preview and talk about the Australian Baseball League. That show airs every Thursday night in North America in the Central Time Zone. For you folks in KC, it's the Central Time Zone, airs at 6 o'clock, pardon me, in the Central Time Zone, 7 a.m. in Perth. Yes, it seems like an early arrival, but there we go. It's actually, it says 8 a.m., but it's actually 7 a.m. in Western Australia. Talking Baseball Australia Live. My broadcast partner in Perth, Paul Morgan, and I will break down the Australian Baseball League as it goes into winter ball. We'll kind of give you guys updated on what's going on in the ABL and what why not, right? Also, we'll encourage you guys to check this out. The Broadcaster Can Cook. Yes, I'll have some time to put some more videos up for you guys as well. That channel is up. The Broadcaster Can Cook, from my booth to your table, and we'll be putting up some new videos. I'll be working on some here in the fall as the weather's better now. I can do a little more better shooting than it was when it was 100 degrees out in July and August, but we're doing that for you as well, as that is also out there. We'd love to have you guys follow that. It's a YouTube channel, The Broadcaster Can Cook. It's a work in progress, but just type it in, The Broadcaster Can Cook, ? And you'll see my mug. It'll be right there for you guys to check that out. So there we go. To close out this one, in seeing the Milwaukee Milkmen, and again, congratulations to the Milwaukee family for what you guys did, I thought I'd replay this to say goodbye to you guys this year. I thought we'd go away with this. It seems like only yesterday, doesn't it, that we were going through a playoff run with the T-Bones in 2018 and in 2019. I mean, it was a year ago today. A year ago last week, we were going through a T-Bones playoff run against Sioux City. And then, of course, doing our thing with the T-Bones 2 years ago when the T-Bones won the American Association. So we've been there recently, and it just seeing those highlights and the celebrations and all that with the Milkmen, it had me thinking. It just had me thinking, you know what, we need to close this thing out with some really good stuff. And how about let's close it out with a look at what the final out was like. 20 24 months ago. Let's play that for you right now. 24 months ago, this was it, the final out of the 2018 season. Hope this will make you guys feel good as we go into dry dock here this summer. Let's roll it right now.
Here's the 1-1. Hit high out toward right center field. Over in the gap is Curcio. He's there, and the game is over. And the T-Bones are the 2018 American Association champions. Here's the 1-1. 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 Hit high out toward right center field. Over in the gap is Curcio. He's there, and the game is over. And the T-Bones are the 2008.
What a time that was. What a time. A little loud, though. What a time that was. And just looking back on that, it still brings chills and still brings excitement and still has me missing you guys and what we do. These are always hard. These final broadcasts are always hard. I mentioned it to Kevin earlier in the broadcast. They're always tough because I'm saying goodbye for the long stretch. We've been talking every week, but we didn't have a broadcast this year, so I kind of missed that. So this is really a goodbye for the season until we go into our Hot Stove League, which we're basically in there now. A big thanks to all you folks who joined us all year long. Big thanks to the American Association letting us use their video, all the broadcasters who played this summer, all the guests as well, all the T-Bones faithful that joined us as far as guests, and just all across the league. I mean, we had so many great guests, so many great T-Bones. And you guys, the fans, when you stop by for 5 minutes, 5 seconds, or you stop by for the whole show, the reason I believe we're the best is because, as I always tell you, you're the best. The fans who follow the Kansas City T-Bones in the American Association. A big thank you from the bottom of my heart. It means the world to me just to have you guys share a video, like a video, come by for 5 minutes, 5 seconds, whatever. It means the world to me. I'm very fortunate, very blessed to do what I do. I say it all the time. I do it for free, pretty much do. You know, I mean, right now with this COVID thing, we're all doing a lot of things for free. And I don't mind doing it. It's a passion. It's a labor of love, but it's what I do. And I'm very blessed. As I tell my daughters every time we talk about careers, if you do what you truly love, you never work a day in your life. And I do what I truly love. And for that, I'm forever thankful to the man upstairs, and I'm very thankful for you folks for making it such a fun time. And I thank you guys very much for doing that. And a big thanks to my wife. Love you, honey. And again, all you guys for all your work and all your hard work. Again, thank you for being a part of T-Bones Baseball in 2020. And until we meet again, which will be about, again, this thing could be 3, 4, 5 weeks, or it could be on in November. We'll keep you posted and keep you going. And I keep telling you guys, virtual hugs, all right? A lot of love. It's a tough, tough time. Let's be better tomorrow than we were today. Let's love each other more tomorrow than we did today. Let's just keep getting better. As fans, husbands, wives, boyfriends, girlfriends, teammates, whatever we are, let's be better. Let's show more love, more empathy. Let's keep on going forward and fighting the good fight, and let's try to have a better 2021 than 2020. Because, boy, we all know 2020 was a bit of kick right square in the backside. Again, thanks for joining me. A big thanks to everybody. Dylan Tice for joining us, as well as Kevin Luco from This Week of the American Association. Of course, always, as I always tell you, well, it's not good night, but we'll say it anyway. Good night, Sizzle. We'll see you guys down the road on the Steakhouse with Dan Vaughn. Let's roll that close so I can speak for you. Roll the close. Here we go. And 3, 2, 1. Much love. See you guys.